Welcome to Feel the Heat, a 5 Reasons Sports Network Miami Heat podcast. Hosted by Alana Tahauer and Michael Christian. This is your one-stop listen for all things Miami Heat culture, past, present, and future, on and off the court.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 19 of Feel the Heat. We are joined by a very special guest today, and I am amped, making Leo season even better than it already is. Mr. Josiah Johnson, welcome. Thank you for being here. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling the heat. I appreciate you guys.
Man, you were the first person to say that, and I love it.
I love that.
Michael,
I'm a big Boogie Nights fan, so he has a song called Feel the Heat. Yeah. Feel the heat.
Listen, I'm with it. People appreciating the name is all I've wanted since we started this podcast. And this is the first guest we've had that really approved of the name. So I'm good. I'm good the rest of the show. I can just listen in now.
I'm actually shocked you've never even made that joke, Michael.
I was waiting. I didn't want it to be forced, right? Like if I did it, it's like when you watch a movie and they have the movie title, they say it in the movie and you're just kind of like, okay, you really did that. So I wanted to let it be organic.
Well, now it is. So we appreciate that. Basically, I'm just going to intro you a little bit in case no one knows who you are, although I find that very hard to believe because you are the NBA meme king, at least in my eyes. Right now, you are the host of Out of Pocket. Is that correct?
Yep.
You want to talk a little bit about that for our listeners?
Out of Pocket's an NBA Twitter theme show that we do centered around the season. It airs on Buckets, which is an account that's run by Wave TV, which is a really burgeoning sports platform that has a huge imprint and following across social media platforms. So me and my co-host Zach Schwartz, we really just get into it, and we don't take anything serious. We just like to have a good time, and you won't ever hear us debating PER and other stupid shit like that. We just like to get the jokes off.
We can definitely relate to that. I don't think analysis is really our thing here either. How did you get started with that though?
I've been doing a bunch of stuff, behind the scenes. I started out as a producer on the sports entertainment side for networks like NFL Network, Showtime, Fox Sports. Was doing a show at Yahoo Sports last season called Dunk Bait with Zach and LeJethro Jenkins. That was one of the most successful shows, I feel like, in Yahoo's modern times. Contract ran out, so I had to find a new gig. The good folks over at Wave gave me an opportunity and a platform to keep talking my shit. So I'm over there now getting it in, still getting the bag, feeding these children, and trying to keep that going for as long as possible.
We love to hear it. And if I am correct, you grew up a Clippers fan, but now have transitioned over to the Lakers.
Stockholm syndrome. So my dad played for the Clippers for a number of years. He's from LA, started out with the Bucks, got traded to the Clippers. So we were basically fathered in, not grandfathered in, but more fathered in. But this was during the Donald Sterling era. So I have no qualms or bitterness, whatever. I'm a lifelong LeBron fan. Everybody knows that. So wherever LeBron goes, I go. So before the show, we were obviously talking about, I forgot that I'd been a Heat fan when LeBron was there. But those were some great years, some great times, and just distant memories, man. It's been like 7 years. So glad to be back in Heat fandom.
So I want to write on that one a little bit just because. So I've been a Heat fan since I was born, right? I was born and raised in Miami. So that's kind of my thing. I know when LeBron joined in 2010, we immediately became everyone's public enemy number one. Like if you were a Heat fan, everyone assumed you're just a bandwagon fan. You don't know anything about the team, all this stuff. It got bad. I had my license plate stolen at one point because it was a Heat license plate. It was ridiculous. So it got kind of hairy here or there. Was there anything about that time with the big three and the Heat that you were just like, that was your favorite part about it? I mean, you said you kind of forgot about it, but 4 straight finals, 2 out of 4 we won. I mean, it was good times.
It was honestly awesome times. Obviously, when LeBron was in Cleveland, not my most desirable city. No offense to the people that live in Cleveland, but been out there for some playoff games, and definitely it's a forgettable place. But when LeBron came to Miami, I think the whole kind of mood just shifted. Obviously, that was kind of villain LeBron, the big three with D Wade and Chris Bosh, with that whole crew, Mike Miller, who's my favorite light-skinned player of all times. Just a unique crew and just good times. Like you said, they won 2, lost 2. I think LeBron, obviously, in that initial press conference when he did the not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7 thing, set himself up for some slander from the likes of the NBA Twitter. NBA Twitter really wasn't buzzing then at that point. It was kind of still in its infancy. But just the way that squad came together, obviously got his first 2 championships. I think the first one was the lockout year, if I'm not mistaken. But, just good times and good things to see. And obviously ran into some tough Spurs squad, some questionable things with the air conditioning in San Antonio, things like that may have swayed the balance, but he got 2 of them things. So, those are great. That was a great period. And, bandwagon, whatever. Miami's a great spot. I remember I'm old enough to remember when obviously the Heat joined the NBA back in the late 80s or early 90s, I believe,
Yeah,
with
late
Ronnie
80s.
Cycli, that whole crew, and just, it was, I love the logo, love the team. Obviously used to play with them on NBA Live back in the day. So, tons of love for the city and the people.
Yeah, and I gotta ask. So LeBron ended up leaving. I think he definitely broke my heart. I think I always expected him to go back to Cleveland, but I didn't expect it so soon. Let's just say LeBron stayed in Miami and he's still there today. Hypothetical. Do you think LeBron wins more or less than the 2 championships he ended up winning after he left the Heat?
Ooh, good question. I'd say probably more. Just obviously, the tough part about Cleveland is it's not a hot free agent destination. Like, it takes a lot to convince somebody to say, hey, come to Cleveland. It's like, there's not really an amount of money you could pay me. I mean, we're looking at Kevin Love now. He's obviously going through mental issues. I would imagine that Cleveland has a lot to do with that. Just as a city waking up, looking outside and you're in Cleveland, it's not, K-Love, who's a guy from Portland who lived in LA, went to UCLA. I'm sure, that feeling, but he was coming from Minnesota too. So maybe I shouldn't be slandering, but, but
no, I'm fine. Listen, slander Cleveland. Listen, I slandered Milwaukee like crazy after they swept the Heat. So slander Cleveland.
Was that
maybe
before or after
stop.
you became a Bucks fan during the finals?
I just wanted the Suns to lose. It's a different.
Michael likes to jump around on his teams here, so you'll learn that quick.
I love misery, so I can definitely get that. But I think if he would have stayed in Miami, I think there would have been a better chance for him to get some more free agents in there. They would have definitely won a couple more championships. It would have been turned up. But then I also don't know, because live, the nightlife, the scenery. Miami's a real laid back, like the fans don't show up till like the second quarter. Like, it's a real laid back place. And, when you go there, you realize like everybody's just kind of doing their thing and they're on their own time.
I will stick up for Miami fans. And before I let Alana jump to the next question, I'm going to stick up for Miami fans a little bit, just because the fans that show up late are the rich fans that sit in the 100 section, because us normal people can't afford those seats and they have season tickets. So they're like, we'll show up halfway through the second quarter and leave right before the start of the fourth because we come to every game. If you look up at the 300 and 400 sections, though, they are packed and people are there like 20 minutes before tip off and stuff. So yes, Miami fans have taken a lot of crap, especially that finals when they started leaving, bunch of losers. But those are the wealthy people. I'm going to blame the wealthy people on that one. And I'm not wealthy yet, so I'll just blame them.
What I never got about that situation when they left is there was enough of them just to overrun security. Like, all it took was just one person to open the door, gatekeep, and just steamroll back in, and then there's just no law and order anymore. But the game is the game.
So how did you start becoming a LeBron fan, though? Because obviously you were deep in the trenches of fandom.
So the year I believe was 2003. LeBron, I was a basketball player at UCLA, didn't play that much, which obviously a quick Google search could highlight. But 2003, LeBron, he was in high school. They came and played at UCLA in a tournament. They used our locker room, and LeBron obviously was a big name at that point. But they used our locker room, and then there was a photo that popped up in Sports Illustrated a couple of days later of LeBron actually used my locker. So I was like, all right, this dude is smart. He's intelligent, dude. There's a shot of him like stretching. You can see my chair with my name on it. I'm actually sitting on that chair right now randomly. But,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
so cool.
Yeah, so I saw that. I was like, damn, LeBron has good taste. I could really rock with this dude. So just to know that we had shared a locker, we've been forever entrenched since then. But just the way he's coming to the league, obviously coming out of high school, just, knowing his backstory and just kind of growing up, obviously, with a single mother and everything like that. The time he spent in Akron, the time he spent in the Bay, which a lot of people don't know about, playing with the Oakland Soldiers and living out there for a little bit. Was just always a big fan of the way he handled himself, conducted himself. And even now, obviously, going into year 18, I believe, was it year 19, that he's never really had any major issues. You can point to a few things, but none of those things are a big deal. I think that the biggest knock on his career is probably the decision, which raised a shitload of money for the Boys and Girls Club, which nobody ever seems to recall or talk about. But when you look at the guy, just a great family man, has done a ton for the league, been a great ambassador for the game of basketball and really helped spread it globally, and just done a lot for the game, man. So I think just his contribution to the sport, the way he continues to elevate the game, all the knocks and criticisms he gets. We talk about guys like Michael Jordan and Kobe and having a mentality of, being an asshole, but, being a tough teammate, things like that. When LeBron does it, all of a sudden it's a bad thing. And it's not the Mamba mentality anymore, the MJ mentality, but they'll still point to those guys in the way that they played. So it's just a funny thing, the way that the narratives have shifted. And then there was a lot of hate and bitterness when LeBron first came in, but to see the way he's risen above it, 4-time champion, won a championship in the bubble, which for my money was the hardest championship in NBA history. A lot of people may disagree, but in the midst of a pandemic, forced to go to Disney World anybody that's been to Disney World, it's great for like 2-3 days. Now you got to spend 3 months there. That'll drive you insane.
I mean, I live here, so I live in Orlando, so I'm gonna say it's not that terrible, but I guess as an NBA player, it's probably not the best.
But you can't even leave. You can't even go to like downtown Disney. You can't,
That's true.
you can't hit the scenery. You can't, just go chill in the actual city. You're literally just stuck in like a Disney themed penitentiary. I can't imagine a few things worse. Like that's kind of like the eighth layer of hell. But everything he's done for the game, I think, just looking at him and obviously his place is etched on the Mount Rushmore. He's my GOAT. I'm sure he's a lot of other people's GOATs as well. So it is what it is, man. I just really rock with the dude, and I'm super, super proud to be a LeBron fan and happy to see where the rest of his career goes.
Yeah.
Michael is making a really exaggerated face at me because he keeps wanting to have a discussion about who really is the greatest of all time. And listen, I live in Chicago. I was born and raised, so I have to back Jordan. I love LeBron. LeBron's like right there, but I just can't. And I refuse to get into this episode with Michael because I just feel like it's going to go downhill very, very fast.
But you just admitted, right? If you lived anywhere else,
but
it would
I
have been
don't.
LeBron
That's
as
a
a GOAT, though, right?
hypothetical. I can't answer
But
that.
you literally just said it's because I live in Chicago. So obviously LeBron is the GOAT. Josiah knows what he's talking about.
No, that is not. Don't twist my words. That is not what I'm saying.
I watched a video I watched you on a video where you got into that GOAT talk a little bit and you mentioned something that I've said a bunch. It's like LeBron has elevated other teammates and other players to levels that they had never reached and would never reach again without him. The NBA is a different landscape as well. I think LeBron, from a skill standpoint, everyone else has had a little harder. You pointed it out. You said, just how you said it was like the Heat had just come in, and I think another team had just like come into the league right around the time like Jordan was coming up and stuff. And it's like,
so he benefited from a lot of expansion. I think people overlooked that, but I grew up in that era. I want to say it was the Heat and the Hornets initially, then what was the Timberwolves and the Magic? I don't know what.
I think the Mavericks came around the time as well, but that was West.
So, you got those 4 teams initially really helped the surge. And obviously people don't realize back then that the drafts were basically, I think the teams could lock in their top 8 players, but 9 through 12 were available to go elsewhere. And most teams run 7, 8, 9 deep, but teams were losing quality players. Talking about the Pistons losing Rick Mahorn, other players getting got. And this is not a knock to Jordan. Jordan was the best player in the league, and I think that would have sustained. But I did some research on, I want to say in his like first 2 seasons with those expansion teams, he was like 29-1. I want to say the Heat made the playoffs within like the first 2 years that they were in the NBA, which just goes to show you that the league wasn't as competitive as it is now. You talk about an expansion team starting now, they're not sniffing that AFC for at least 4 or 5 years. So not a bad thing. Obviously, he was the best player in the league at that point, but he benefited tremendously. And even on the second three-peat run, I want to say it was the Raptors and the Grizzlies that came in the league at that point. So, the league, and you talk about, people could say, oh, Josiah, you're a hater or whatever, but you talk about guys like Larry Bird, Magic Johnson said the same thing. Dennis Rodman said as much as well. Like, in that 72-win season, they were like, we're playing a bunch of bums. Like, we would have to try to lose a game, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's not a knock to MJ. Obviously, an amazing career, amazing dude. His shoes still sell for higher than they did when I was a kid. So, his legacy is long lasting. But even looking at that propaganda piece, The Last Dance, was like, all right, bro, we get it. Like, like you're an EP on this. Like you're seeing everybody's interview before you answer questions.
Man, if I would have known that this is what it was going to turn into,
I'm just saying.
Watched it again for the second time.
It's like amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. Like fantasy. Like it's amazing. Like it's an amazing propaganda piece. It accomplishes what it set out to do. But any point where the guy's an EP on the project and has fucking final approval of it, there's going to be issues on it. Like when LeBron drops his 20-part series, it have to be double than Jordan just because there's so much more to cover. But when LeBron drops his series, it'll be full of embellishments, and he'll come out looking like the greatest player to ever live or breathe or touch a basketball. So
yeah, we can say right now, Pat Riley probably won't look super great in said documentary about 2014.
Pat Riley never looks bad. Impossible.
LeBron will find a way when he's EP on his own documentary. I like LeBron too, but listen, I'm so relieved someone joined the show and they didn't automatically take your side, Alana. Like I'm so happy right now.
Not what happens generally.
Well, all the time. We'll move off the LeBron talk in a second. I wanted to get your thoughts on Space Jam 2, though.
LeBron probably, I didn't think he'd be able to match his acting from Trainwreck, but he over delivered, over exceeded the cinematography, the visuals. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, look, Space Jam 2 is what it is. I don't think anybody's expecting an Oscar worthy movie. I definitely did give him a standing ovation, but the theater was empty, so I just gave him more. But it was a serviceable movie. I think it had a really strong message. If you compare the two Space Jams, Space Jam 1, MJ really wasn't giving his kids no love. He was kind of just on his own shit. Where Space Jam 2 really had a lot more heart, lot more of a family story behind it. And I think comparing the movies together, I think when we get older, we're such, nostalgia fiends that we think that everything from our generation was the greatest thing ever. And you put those two movies together, I'd say they're both, on an equal level. Maybe Space Jam 2 gets a nod just a little bit because of LeBron's acting skills.
I still lean Space Jam 1. I'll give Space Jam 1 was another one of those EP Michael Jordan, like, look at me, I'm the best basketball player. I'm going to score 45 points with the Looney Tunes. I did love that tweet that came out when somebody was putting out like the stats and LeBron was like 4 for 5 in the game. And Michael Jordan was like 23 for 23. It's like, that's exactly how they would play. So it makes a lot of sense. This was a great time talking about LeBron. I'm so happy.
It's fine. Michael's derailed us as usual. I'm going to get back on track a little bit. I just honestly want to know how on earth you got to the point you did on Twitter and just using that platform, social media in general, to kind of, honestly, again, just meme king. Like, I just need to know the story behind this because you are such an interesting follow to me. I've been following you for a really long time. Your shit is hysterical. So let's hear the tea.
So really, I hated social media for a long time, and it wasn't a knock on it, but I just know how much of my life would end up consuming if I jumped into it, and I was absolutely correct with that. But back 2015, 2016, 2017, I had a show on Comedy Central called Legends of Chamberlain Heights. So I was working on that show, took over the management duties for the social media accounts, the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram. And really at that point, it was out of more necessity. That show was my baby. I created that show along with my teammate at UCLA, Quinn Hawking, and Michael Starberry, Brad Abelson, Mike Clemens. We had a nice crew on there of guys, but created that show, wanted to see that show sustain, realized early on back then, 5-6 years ago, that social was the way to go. You're talking about shows like Game of Thrones, talking about shows like Insecure. They really had a cult following develop online, and that really helped boost engagement and help boost viewership because it basically had a second, third life away from the show in terms of just the content that was created and all the fun that people had with the memes. I didn't get into Game of Thrones, sadly, until like season 5 or 6, went back and binge watched the entire series with my wife in a matter of like 3 weeks. We were on like 4 or 5 episodes a day at various points. We'd get locked in at like 8 p.m. and be watching until 3 or 4 in the morning, like consecutive, you're talking about like weeks in a row. But just an amazing show. So I knew with Legends, I wanted to be able to do a similar thing with that. So I just did a ton of research, a lot of market research, looked at some of our competitors, not even competitors per se, but other shows like South Park, other big name shows, how they ran social, how they approached it, looked at a bunch of just meme accounts. And I just kind of discovered that memes generally have the highest engagement, highest retention, and it was an easy, quick way to be able to build and boost following. So, it was a lot of trial and error, putting stuff out. Some of the stuff wasn't good initially and just kind of learned. And now I'm almost 40 and I've got 2 kids and a family. So I just don't have the time to really devote to, you look at the Bleacher Reports and these other spots and they do all these intricate over the top kind of graphics, animations, all that other stuff. I really learned that people they want simple. They want easy to digest stuff that's easily recognizable. They were doing a lot of face swaps back in the day. I kind of discovered that if you haven't seen the movie, that face swap really is not going to mean a lot to you if you don't literally know all that. Where even if you haven't seen the movie and you watch a clip that features it, and something I learned early on, I did a meme of when Antonio Brown went to the went to the Patriots. Did a meme, put it up. Jordan Peele did a Get Out meme. Jordan Peele ended up seeing the meme, ended up following me. Quote tweeted it. Said a bunch of nice things. But I kind of realized then that you could basically take and transform pop culture, nostalgia, and really flip it to whatever's going on in the universe. So I kind of just dove headfirst into it. Like I said, tested a lot of different stuff, a lot of different variations that dealt with a lot of, it's like kind of being like a stand-up comic. You go out there, sometimes you just dominate, sometimes you bomb, and the crowd lets you know about it, and you start getting death threats and all types of wild shit that you would have never expect from just posting a meme. But apparently, it really has a significant impact on people. But so just from that, just was doing it a ton and been able to grow, and people see where the account's at now and the following I've been able to generate. It's funny, like I've done a ton of stuff in the NBA Twitter space, but the biggest surge really came during the election in those, weeks where, Donald Trump held the country hostage while we're waiting for votes to come in and get tabulated. Like normally elections on Tuesday, by Tuesday night we announce, but this one just dragged on for days and days. And there was so much comedy from all the different states, how slow they were moving, the recounts and all that other type of shit. But saw the biggest surge from there. But been doing a ton of good stuff, been getting a lot of support. You know, it's funny, like I used to be super like inflammatory and go at people, and then those people started following me. So the KDs, the Steph Currys, the LeBrons of the world start following you, and suddenly you have to rethink kind of how you're approaching your content and the way you move. But just dove into it, really kind of just found a niche and a lane to really develop. And it's cool for me to see, well, cool in some regards, but cool to see a lot of different people who've been influenced by it and now, you know, take their shot as well. It's been a little disheartening to see some of these bigger companies kind of follow the same trajectory and a lot of times still steal a lot of the content and not offer a bag in return. And you know, but those people will be dealt with accordingly once the pandemic ends. There's definitely a mental list going on in my head of all the people who have slighted and wronged me, and then there's one of all the people who are on the good list. There's a naughty list and there's a nice list. But so just dove headfirst into it. A lot of trial and error, try to keep the mental health where it needs to be. I think a lot of people don't understand that side of social. Once you start elevating, you get a lot of hate, negativity, people who are really bitter, a lot of burner accounts. And the thing that's just frustrating for me is like, you know, if you're going to say whatever, I don't care, you love me, you hate my shit, you think it sucks, you put your name on it, put your face on it, you know, don't hide behind a burner account or all this other shit. That's just real coward shit. I feel like the generation nowadays is just, you know, super cowardly in the way they move and shake. And we couldn't really operate like that back in the day. If you had something you wanted to say to somebody, you had to run up on them and say it, or, you know, or sit on that shit. So it is what it is, but it's a fun game to be a part of. It's really cool for me to see the way that NBA Twitter has grown and the way that, you know, other personalities are now developing, you know, from this world and this culture that maybe aren't traditionally or classically trained, didn't go to Syracuse or Northwestern or one of these other schools you have to go to get in the game. And now everybody's just kind of, you know, having fun with it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Jordan Peele, and you mentioned people like LeBron and KD following you and stuff like that. Two questions. Like, one, what was like that first moment where you like, okay, my Twitter account is pretty serious. Like I'm getting interactions from this person or this person, like, holy shit, I've made it. And two, like, what are some of your favorite interactions like the Jordan Peele one? Like, is there another time where somebody else went at you or you kind of had a back and forth or they liked your content, whatever that is?
So Jordan Peele obviously was the first entry point, and I had gotten some success before then and a lot of people supporting, but to get Jordan Peele, and people don't realize this, but you know, like social is kind of one of my avenues, but I'm mainly a writer, producer, you know, working on the entertainment side. So obviously I had the show Legends of Chamberlain Heights at Comedy Central. Just did a show with Ava DuVernay and Colin Kaepernick and my co-creator on Legends of the Chamberlain Heights, Michael Starberry, on Cap's Life. So, you know, I joke, like, if I would have went to my agent, to my reps, like, yo, can you give me a meeting with Jordan Peele? They'll laugh in my face. But, you know, I put a meme up and now Jordan Peele's following me. We're DMing each other, talking back and forth. Just, it's opened so many doors and avenues that what I would never imagine. So Peele was the first one. And then most recently, and I remember this like it was yesterday, June 10th, 2021, during the Nets game, threw a tweet up. LeBron saw it. LeBron quote tweeted it. You know, we ended up going back and forth. He ended up calling me the GOAT and just saying, you know, how funny I is. So obviously LeBron's my GOAT. So to have your GOAT call you the GOAT was probably my favorite moment professionally on social media. So there's not really any coming back from that. And now I've been kind of just, it's been like a, you know, hangover from it, because you're just like, all right, I need that next LeBron fix, or like, what else can I get beyond that? Obama, Beyonce, like our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, are pretty like the only three people that can maybe tweet at me that can match that feeling of surrealness. But it's a cool moment. That's what I love about social, though. And that's what people don't realize. You can really get in touch with people so easily and communicate with them so effectively. And this is like that's never been seen before. Like, I would have never been able to get in front of LeBron, but LeBron sees the tweet, he thinks it's hilarious. And now, you know, that's like, okay, like I'm doing some cool shit. So those two moments, actually LeBron during the tournament, I went to UCLA and I did this like in jest, did this thread of UCLA players who I respected for their curls, because Johnny Juzang, who's a player on the team now, he has a luxurious curl on the top of his dome. So did a thread of, you know, just kind of in jest, joking around with guys that I rocked with. LeBron ended up seeing that, you know, cracked up at that. And that was the first one. I'm like, all right, because I had a feeling that LeBron was following me from burner accounts, but was never really engaging with the content. He was really starting to tick me off and grind my gears. So to get that love from him was really kind of the first thing that set it off.
Honestly, at the risk of sounding like a fangirl, I like watched this all play out with him interacting with you and calling you the GOAT. And I was losing my mind, just because, again, like, you were just so funny to me. And Michael knows I'm not really one to like blow smoke up people's asses. Like, if I'm complimenting someone, like, I'm dead ass serious about it. So when I saw that, I was like, the amount of hype that I had, I can only imagine how you felt. Speaking of LeBron, though, and kind of backtracking a little bit to kind of NBA Twitter, give me your thoughts on Heat Twitter, because I am not a Heat Twitter. I'm not their biggest fan, and I feel like I'm really the only one who ever calls them out. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on the fan base in general.
I mean, Heat Twitter, I haven't dealt with you guys since the bubble. I believe the last time we interacted was Game 6 of the 2020 NBA Finals when LeBron and AD were hoisting a trophy up and getting Lakers championship number 17. But I'm a fan of, look, all versions of Twitter. I find it's so, even these times, free agency, when teams battle each other, there's so much like just people battling. It's literally like Game of Thrones and everybody's representing different houses and going at each other. But it's cool to see how passionate fans are for their team and their players. Obviously, you guys made the Kyle Lowry deal go through. I don't know if it was tampering, but, if anybody's master of tampering, it's Pat Riley. And,
I mean, we want to talk about Anthony Davis to the Lakers.
That's what I'm saying. That's where LeBron learned it from. LeBron really learned how to get the tampering, but obviously players can't tamper amongst each other. So it's funny to see once that news broke, everybody's like, well, LeBron and Westbrook and AD were at dinner weeks ago. It's like, yeah, they know how to play the game, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you get the tampering going. But that's the thing I love about NBA Twitter. You got passionate ass fans across the board. Heat Twitter is no different. Yeah, do they get a little turned up sometimes? Do they get a little, out of pocket? Of course, but I kind of thrive and live in that world as well. So all for me, it's just the thing I would love to see from NBA Twitter across the board is just be respectful. It doesn't matter if your teams are battling each other, you hate each other, whatever it may be, just be respectful and respect everybody as a human being on the platform. So when you're talking your shit, obviously slandering, whatever it may be, all that's good and dandy, but don't say some shit to somebody that you wouldn't say if you saw them on the streets. You know what I mean? Like, we live in a world and a culture now where people aren't afraid of getting their jaw broke, so they can really say whatever they want. But it's like, I guarantee you, like, I don't talk shit to Mike Tyson because I know Mike Tyson could fuck me up. So that's just kind of the standard I live by. So if I wouldn't say the shit to Mike in his face, I'm not going to say the shit on Twitter because I feel like I'm cool and bold and brash. Like, it's just a lot of fake toughness that goes on. So that's the one thing as long as everyone's respectful, and I think Heat Twitter does a sufficient enough job of that. I won't say that they're always respectful, but they're definitely obviously super passionate, a rabid fan base. So as a former member of quote unquote Heat Twitter during the LeBron days, good to see it thriving as a community and hope to see you guys doing some big things, obviously, with the squad you got coming back. I know Jimmy re-signed as well. So got a good crew coming through. So hopefully it works out. I feel for Goran Dragic though. That's definitely a tough time. He's getting
well, and I was gonna say, I know you're boasting about that bubble run, but if Goran was healthy, I don't know if you guys would have gotten that title. And I'm gonna die on this hill. I feel like if Goran was there, it would have been a way tougher time.
Hold on though. You say you guys, like, you're also not a huge Lakers fan because
I am a Lakers fan. They're my Western team.
But every team, you can't have both, right?
Michael, you have a different team literally every week.
Yeah, but I'm not actually loyal to them. I'm just like, okay, I'm over you now, right? No, listen, everybody, all of us now on Heat Twitter and all of us Heat fans now are questioning her loyalty, right? Because
I've been talking up the Lakers. You guys have it locked down. This title is yours. There's absolutely no question in my mind. I've been literally spewing this. I think I said this even last season. Like, they're just they have a weird asterisk year, and they're going to come back stronger before any trades are made, any signings happen. Now I'm fully on board, and now everyone's coming at me. I'm real. I'm keeping it realistic. Michael doesn't like this.
I would love to believe that, but we just got to make sure AD stays healthy. It's tough because people look at LeBron, and it's funny to me. The people hate on LeBron, but they want to compare year 19 LeBron to guys that are still in their prime as if they're on equal footing.
Yeah.
Such a wild thing that goes on. Like, LeBron gets compared to Steph and KD, but like, these guys are still in their prime. LeBron, by all intents and purposes, is literally washed right now. He's literally fits the criteria of what washed should be. And he's still putting up 25, 7, and 7 a game. So I think it's just more a testament to what he's been able to do. Obviously, playing the amount of minutes that he's played, 9 final or 10 finals, whatever it is at this point. The amount of tread on those tires, I don't think people realize, like, especially playoff basketball, which is such a more intense, higher level and more competitive version of the game. And for him to still be out there sustaining, still getting compared to guys that are, year 19 versus year 12, year 13, I think is wild and tremendous. But you also, as I know Kobe's fans saw this as well. There just becomes that point where you reach that point where it starts to decline, and you come to the reality like, yo, this thing is going to be shut down soon. I feel like LeBron could probably go another 2-3 years at a high level. I feel like he's waiting for Bronny, and he'll know, if once Bronny gets to kind of his freshman year of college or towards his junior, senior year of high school, how it's looking, what the trajectory is looking like. Is he going to be a pro anytime soon? All right, I'm going to stick around and try and do the Ken Griffey senior and junior thing, but it remains to be seen.
Yeah, and I think, athletes like LeBron and I say the word athlete loosely with this next person, so excuse it. But like Tom Brady, I understand Tom Brady is an athlete, but it there's a little.
I don't know why you're looking at me like I'm going to jump
No,
on you.
no, because he is an athlete for sure. He's a quarterback. He's the greatest quarterback of all time. Also, athletically, like I don't think he could run a mile very fast at all. So that's the only place I was saying it. But I feel like you got Tom Brady and LeBron, and they're playing so late into their careers at such a high level that it kind of makes you forget how old they are. And so now you start kind of putting that on everybody else. So you start looking at Steph and KD and thinking, oh, they'll play till they're like 39, 40 as well, just like LeBron and Tom Brady are doing and stuff, right? So I think that's where I really agree with you, because he's so late in his career. What he's doing is so unprecedented and so amazing because no one's done it that late. And to have gone to so many playoffs and to play so deep, I mean, players like that come so rarely. I mean, it kind of pushes him further into the GOAT argument, right, Alana?
Okay, so you're saying this, but I can't say that the Lakers are going to win the title this season.
Because they're not.
Who's going to win then, Michael?
The Heat.
Okay, see, Michael's delusional. Here's the thing. I'm a realistic Heat fan. I love this squad. We're a bunch of dogs. Our identity is going to be so crazy tough. We're not winning the title. Like, unless we somehow walk away with like Beal and Dame and all the other guys we've acquired.
I'd ask Josiah, but I know who he thinks is going to win the finals this year.
I mean, look, the Milwaukee Bucks won last year. My dad works for the Bucks, so I was parenting to them. They took care. I got to go to Game 3, and they treated him super well. He got to be in the parade. He was taking his shirt off, flexing, and all that good shit. But nobody really would have expected, obviously, like the meltdown they had last year in the bubble. Nobody would have legitimately expected that team. And I remember our entire family was watching Game 7 of Bucks Nets. My dad works for the Bucks. He wasn't calling the game because it's a national game. But we're in the house, KD, I think it's 111 or whatever the score is, 113, 111, excuse me. And we're in the house, and it's just like, yo, they got to foul this dude because if he shoots, he's going to score. And we know he's going to shoot a 3 because it's KD and he wants to get this shit over with. By the grace of God, his big-ass foot prevented that from happening. But no, just saying, nobody would have expected the Bucks to win the championship. I don't think anybody would have expected the Heat to make the finals last year. So when you're looking at this squad now that's fortified, you got Bam coming off a gold medal. You got Jimmy, who's always just, chip on the shoulder, ready to go. You got Kyle Lowry, who's in a similar situation after a nasty showing last year with the Raptors just as a team, them finishing 12th in the East, whatever the fuck it was. That these guys are now going to come back reinvigorated, and they're in Miami. The weather's lovely, nice and humid. It keeps your muscles nice and loose. Yep. You know what I'm saying? It's not like playing in these cold weather spots. Like cold weather spots like Milwaukee, you really got to motivate. Mm-hmm. Like, I've been out there in the heart of winter. Like that shit is tough. Like it's fucking 30 degrees outside. It takes a little while to kind of get your body into shape. Where Miami, you can just show right to the gym ready to go because you're already loose. That humidity has really got those muscles stretched out and ready to go. So I think you guys might exceed expectations. It's going to take a little bit. It's going to take some different things to happen, because if the Nets are 100% going into any series, like, I just don't see how anybody beats that squad, but all things are possible.
We'll deal with the Nets later. We'll deal with the Nets when we get to the Nets.
Michael is on cloud 9 that you've said this now, because
I've been on cloud 9 since Depot came back. So
I know I have the text message to prove it. I am on cloud 9.
Yep.
Literally just typed that out and sent it. Like I didn't already know.
We got to go ahead. What are you saying?
No, go ahead.
All right, I'll just go then. Josiah, you said you were working on a show with Eva DuVernay and Colin Kaepernick. You bring that show out. I mean, you had a bunch of stuff come out, right? You had like your show on Comedy Central. You mentioned got to work with Jay Farrell on that one. Who I love Jay Farrell. Like I love everything he does. So that's super cool. You've got the show with Cap. Your social media following is there, right? You get to engage with all these cool people. What's next for you, right? Like, what are you wanting to do next? Like, what is, if you had your idea, like, this is the next thing I want to do. Do you want to write and star in your own movie or something like that? Because that feels pretty plausible, man.
I think for me, it's just total domination. I think there was a large part of my life where I had no desire whatsoever to be in front of the camera, but I've been doing a bunch of stuff on that side. I've been doing well, been working with the folks at Turner Sports, NBA Twitter Live. So did a bunch of games with them this year, got to go out to Atlanta during the playoffs, and literally were in the studio right next door to Inside the NBA. So if you can imagine that feeling of, pulling up to the studio, walking in, and they're like, oh, you got to go to makeup, and walking into makeup, and like literally like Shaq, Chuck, and Kenny all having a fucking argument about ice cream or something. It was like it was like, what the fuck is going on? This is like my world right now. So I think total domination really, and then also just laying the groundworks and laying the foundation for the next generation to come through, especially a lot of kids who look like me, who don't understand what the social game is and how just lucrative it is. I mean, this shit is big business now. It's $1 billion industry. Tons of people are making money. And I look at a lot of different social teams across the league. And, back a couple of years ago, people were posting like their group photos from their social squads. And it was like, damn, there's a lot of white people in this fucking photo. Like, where are the black people at? Because I'm on Twitter every day and I know tons of talented ass black people that are tweeting about football, basketball, baseball, all these things. And I would see those same tweets kind of butchered and basically bastardized and taken away and retooled and, we'll add an extra letter here or whatever. And it's like, give these people a chance to really open up the foundation and laying that groundwork for them to be able to blaze and follow the path that I'm blazing. Just trying to give back as much as possible. I've been really blessed and fortunate, even my own career, to have a ton of people who have always reached their hand out and helped me out and, taking time to just do whatever to uplift me to get me where I need to be. So I would love to be able to return that favor. Obviously working with somebody like Ava, who just is, does an amazing job of just giving opportunities to people, marginalized people across, Black, Asian, Latino, all types of different cultures and races that just get opportunities there to flourish with her and her company Array. And then also working with my buddy Michael Starberry, who was a showrunner on the Collins Show. Like I said, was a creator of Legends of Chamberlain Heights with me, but he's always just been in my corner. And for my money, he's the best writer in the game. So when he reads my stuff, he's like, "Yo, shit is good." It's kind of like getting that LeBron tweet. It's like I'm getting stamped by my LeBron of writing. So just want to keep that shit going, man. Keep these kids fed. I want to get my kids in Gucci, hopefully at some point in fur coats, if they so desire. And just being able to live a good life, kind of do the things you want to do. And that's kind of the goal for me at this point.
That is the most motivational thing I've heard in a long time, and the perfect way to wrap up this episode. We cannot thank you enough for being here. It's been a pleasure. Michael is extra excited because for once someone agreed with him. So you've made his entire week, I think. But again, thank you so much for having us. It was a blast. And honestly, I will be rooting for the Lakers on the Western side of things. So you have a friend in me that way.
All gravy.
All right. Thank you so much, Josiah. We will be back next week with another episode of Feel the Heat, and we will have a live stream as well on the 5 Reasons Sports YouTube channel. This was probably the most uplifting episode we've ever done, Josiah. So thank you very much. Heat fans, you guys have a good night.
Thanks for listening to Feel the Heat. Can't get enough of your hosts? Follow Alana at Alana Tahauer, TACHAUER, and Michael at Michael5RSN on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe.